Newcomer Danny Harris Kornfeld is currently starring as narrator and aspiring filmmaker Mark in the 20th anniversary tour of Rent. We're here at the Pearl Studios in New York City to meet Danny and find out more about the tour. Danny Harris Kornfeld, you are playing Mark in the 20th anniversary tour of Rent. How exciting is that?
The most exciting. It's truly a dream come true.
Do you remember when Rent sort of entered your life, when you became aware of it?
Yeah, I was, I think, 9 years old. My parents had seen the show, I think, with the original cast, and we had a CD in the car, and I would listen to it constantly. It was the first show that I totally had memorized beginning to end, and I remember playing it on the way to soccer practice. I would try to get friends into it, and I remember in the beginning when they would like say the F word, I would like turn it down really, really quick and then put it back on.
Oh, that's great.
Do
you remember what it was about? Was it the music? Was it the story? A certain song? Like what sort of hooked you in to Rent initially?
I think it was the music because it was such a new sound for me. My parents were very good about introducing me to like traditional musical theater. We would watch The King and I, we would watch Meet Me in St. Louis, we would watch Hello Dolly, and this was something that I had never heard before or knew even existed in the realm of musical theater.
You said you played soccer, but your parents showed you plenty of musical films and all that. Was being an artist sort of a preordained thing for you, or is this always what you wanted to do?
I think so. I remember seeing Peter Pan when I was, I think 3, and like seeing him fly, I was like, I absolutely want to do that one day.
Right.
I've since played the role and never want to do it again because it hurts so much flying, but it was, I think just the magic of that was like, okay, like if someone can fly in real life, I got to do that.
Right. So you grew up in Michigan, right? So how did your journey to New York sort of play out? Did you go to school here?
Yeah, so I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then we moved to Michigan when I was 4. I grew up there, and when I was in middle school, I started doing community theater. And I would do summer camps at the JCC, and then I learned about performing arts camps. And so when I was in high school, did that whole thing, and that was great. And I think that was the first time I was like, oh wow, there's people who are excited about this just as much as I am. That got me in the mindset of I'm absolutely going to go to college for this. I went to Syracuse for school, and I'll be coming up on my 2-year anniversary in New York City.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Like next week.
When I got to see all of your cast in rehearsal the other day, one of the things that sort of struck me is everyone's so young, there's this like new generation of people sort of taking Rent into their hands. How does that feel? Is it pressure? Are you excited about that?
It's the combination of both. It's so exciting, and there's all that pressure of people know this show, and they have very high expectations for what it is.
Right.
And I was born in the early 90s. I have a sense of what life in the 80s and the 90s were like, but I don't know that.
Right.
And so it's going to be doing all that kind of research and coming to it with who I am today and what that means to us now.
I was interviewing someone in the rehearsal room, and they sort of brought up the point that the AIDS crisis never really affected them. They knew about it, but they didn't have any sort of personal connection to it. And now you're taking Rent, across the country. People are probably going to see it for the very first time, sort of introduced to this whole thing. Have you thought about that? What that will sort of mean to you?
I personally don't know anyone who's HIV positive, and I've talked to people who have, but I feel like it's one of those things that people don't necessarily love discussing the details of. And one of the blessings that we've gotten through this rehearsal process is that Victoria Lee Koch, who is Jonathan's one of his best friends, came and had lunch with us.
Oh, wow.
And she told us stories about Gordon and Allie and Pam and Sue, all her friends who she lost, and they're the names that we hear in support group. And so getting to hear her personal stories, I just sat there and cried through the whole thing, and it was the first. It makes that number mean so much more to us now.
Right, totally. It's so interesting because you have so many people, you have several people involved in the original Broadway production that have come back to sort of shepherd this 20th anniversary tour. The choreographer, you know, you've got, is it powerful sort of being in a rehearsal room with these people that you know, crafted this beautiful musical, and now they've come back 20 years later to, usher in anew? Does it feel powerful in the room like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something very special about this show, is that once someone works on it, there's a definite affinity towards it, and they feel very much attached to it and want to continue in on the legacy of it. I mean, we've had so many people from past companies just popping into rehearsal to say hi, sending us well wishes. We FaceTimed with some of the original cast, and I feel like that doesn't happen for every show.
No, I don't think it does.
And it's amazing because like Rent is something that was so commercially successful, so artistically successful, and Jonathan Larson created something that people just genuinely love working on, and the relationships that develop because of it.
Right.
That's so special.
Right, and you're right, but at the same time, everyone feels like Rent is their musical.
Right. Right. And having Marlise and Evan, who was there from the early stages, it's electrifying.
Yeah.
We're not recreating the wheel. We're joining it. We're joining this legacy, and that I'm so proud of and feel so fortunate to be a part of.
I can imagine. And one of the other things that I remember being struck by with Rent is just almost a little bit jealous that here was this group of people that all found each other, and they were all the best of friends, and they worked together, and they loved together, and they lived together. Do you have a similar sort of setup here in the city amongst you and your friends?
Yes. I love my life here so much. I have the greatest group of friends and I love that it's all different kinds of groups. I'm very much a floater, and I've always been. And having family that's not blood, especially in the city that can be so lonely at times, is the most important thing and something that I hold so near and dear to my heart.
Right. And now you're in this group of people, this cast.
Yeah, creating a new family.
You're creating a new family. You've got, I think, something like 270 performances that you're going to do across the world, 60 cities. How are all of you sort of coming together as a family, as a team?
We're just so excited to be there, and we just want to give everything to each other and to it. And I just think having those happy and positive attitudes is just conducive to creating the best environments. And we're going to be on a bus for many hours with each other, and finding that love and reminding us of why we're here and why we're doing it is going to help us carry through. Right.
I know Seasons of Love is this amazing moment in Rent, but is there a particular moment, a particular song that you can't wait to do on stage every night across the country?
La Vie Boheme.
Big Mark number.
Big Mark number, but more of the fact that it's the celebration of the outcast. And I'm excited for wherever we are in the country, for someone in that audience to be like, oh my God, my people are there. Like, I will find them, whether it's here or whether it's 5 years from now, like they exist. And that number exemplifies that.
Yeah, I think that exemplifies Rent.
Exactly.
All right, so everyone should come see Danny Harris Kornfeld as Mark in Rent. Come see the 20th anniversary tour, and then 60 cities across the country. So you will have ample opportunity to see Rent. Thank you so much
thanks.
for talking with us. It's been so much fun, and I can't wait to see you guys on the road.
Cool.